So I won't tell the name of the novel or the writer. This you have to guess. I'll just read it along, and I think if I read it along, then it will be very easy to guess because the names would appear, the popular names and all. It's a very popular novella. Um, Anyway, if you have already guessed it, then you should pat yourself because, yeah, that's really great. So let's dive in. So, chapter 43, another retrospect. Once again, let me pause upon a memorable period of my life. Let me stand aside to see the phantoms of those days go by me, accompanying the shadow of myself in dim procession. Weeks, months, seasons pass along. They seem little more than a summer day and a winter evening. Now, the common where I walk with Dora is all in bloom, a field of bright gold. And now the unseen heather lies in mounds and bunches underneath a covering of snow. In a breath, the river that flows through our Sunday walks is sparkling in the summer sun, is ruffled by the winter wind, or thickened with drifting heaps of ice. Faster than ever, river ran towards the sea. It flashes, darkens, and rolls away. Not a thread changes in the house of the two little bird like ladies. The clock ticks over the fireplace. The weather glass hangs in the hall. Neither clock nor weather glass is ever right, but we believe in both devoutly. I have come legally to a man's estate. I have attained dignity of 21. So our protagonist in the story have turned 21. He has inherited some estate, and in the first two paragraphs that we have read the, as we have all seen, the description of the scenery in which our protagonist is walking or say sitting, that will come to know later on, mostly description. So do let me know in the comments if this is right, then me reading and reviewing, or me reading and explaining the story, or just reading it and reading for you, and you, my viewers, then reviewing it yourself, or just listening to it. Do let me know. Yeah. So let's come back to the story. I have come legally to man's estate. I have attained the dignity of 21. But this is a sort of dignity that may be thrust upon one. Let me think what I have achieved. I have tamed that savage stenographic mystery. I make a respectable income by it. I am in high repute for my accomplishment in all pertaining to the arts, and am joined with 11 others in reporting the debates in Parliament for a morning newspaper. Night after night, I record predictions that never come to pass, professions that are never fulfilled, explanations that are only meant to mystify. I wallow in words. Britannia, that unfortunate female, is always before me, like a trussed fowl, skewered through and through with office pens, and bound hand and foot with red tape. I am sufficiently behind the scenes to know the worth of political life. I am quite an infidel about it, and shall never be converted. So our protagonist has got a job in Parliament. It's a very respectable job. I think he's a stenographer there. Taking down the notes of the proceedings, whatever goes on in the Parliament, and he is drowned in words. That's why. and he considers himself not good enough to have a political career, or he doesn't like it, something like that. But that's why he says that I'm an infidel and shall never be converted. However, he makes a good income by it, and is quite accomplished, as we can all understand. Okay, so next is, let's come back to the story. My dear old Traddles has tried his hand at the same pursuit, but it is not in Traddles' way. So Traddles is his friend, I guess. So Traddles also tried to get as a stenographer in Parliament, but I think he could not get the job. So let's come back to the story. He's perfectly good humored, respecting his failure, and reminds me that he always did consider himself slow. He has occasional employment on the same newspaper in getting up the facts of dry subjects to be written about and embellished by more fertile minds. He is called to the bar, and with admirable industry and self denial has scraped another £100 together to fee a conveyancer whose chamber he attends. A great deal of very hot port wine was consumed at his call, and considering the figure, I should think the inner temple must have made a profit by it. I have come out in another way. I have taken with fear and trembling to authorship. I wrote a little something in secret and sent it to a magazine, and it was published in the magazine. Since then, I have taken heart to write a good many trifling pieces. Now I am regularly paid for them. Altogether, I am well off. When I tell my income on the fingers of my left hand, I pass the third finger and take in the fourth to the middle joint. So here the author says that, gives us an idea, the protagonist gives us a clear idea about what he does in his free time. He has taken a liking to writing books, and he has even sent one of his writing pieces to the newspaper, to the magazine, which they have already published. And since then he's writing small pieces and this and that, and he is also earning from there. And he also gave us an idea of his income, and he has also explained about Traddles, his friend, who probably couldn't get the job of a stenographer in the parliament like he did, but he is also doing something, say, writing other pieces in the newspaper, from whom I think he got this liking to write for the newspaper, and altogether the liking to write something. Okay, so let's get back to the story. We have removed from Buckingham Street to a pleasant little cottage very near the one I looked at when my enthusiasm first came on. My aunt, however, who has sold the house at Dover to good advantage, is not going to remain here, but intends removing herself to a still more tiny cottage, close at hand. What does this portend? My marriage? Yes. So here we hear that the protagonist, I think, lives with his aunt, but and they have taken a very small pleasant cottage in the Buckingham. They have removed from the Buckingham Street where they used to live before, and they have taken a very little cottage at some other place. And the protagonist's aunt has also sold her own house, which was at Dover, and got a good sum of money. And she also didn't join him, or maybe joined him, but she wants her own place, which is maybe a smaller place. So what does this make of it? If the aunt could have lived with our protagonist only, but that portends his marriage. So yeah, our protagonist is going to marry someone. Okay, let's get back to the story. Yes, I'm going to be married to Dora, Miss Lavinia and Miss Clarissa have given their consent. So Miss Lavinia and Miss Clarissa are maybe Dora's relatives. So, and they have already consented to their marriage. And if ever canary birds were in a flutter, they are. Miss Lavinia, self charged with the superintendence of my darling's wardrobe, is constantly cutting out brown paper cuirasses and differing in opinion from a highly respectable young man with a long bundle and a yard measure under his arm. A dressmaker, always stabbed in the breast with a needle and thread, boards and lodges in the house, and seems to me, eating, drinking, or sleeping, never to take her thimble off. They make a lay figure of my dear. They are always sending for her to come and try something on. We can't be happy together for 5 minutes in the evening, but some intrusive female knocks at the door and says, "Oh, if you please, Miss Dora, would you step upstairs?" So they have already, Mrs. Lavinia, uh, probably our protagonist's relative, aunt maybe, or someone, has already started bringing in dressmakers, designers for the wedding, and they, our protagonist and his girlfriend, now girlfriend, Dora, doesn't get any time together in their own nowadays. Somebody is always knocking at the door and asking our protagonist's girlfriend to come out of the door and try new dresses, put up, jewelries for the wedding. And that's what makes him really a bit furious and also happy. Okay, so let's get back to the story. Miss Clarissa and my aunt roam all over London to find out articles of furniture for Dora and me to look at. It would be better for them to buy the goods at once, without this ceremony of inspection. For when we go to see a kitchen, fender, and meat screen, Dora sees a Chinese house for Jip with little bells on the top and prefers that. So, whenever Mrs. Clarissa is another relative of Dora, and aunt, and my aunt means our protagonist's aunt, they're going all over London to buy furnitures and kitchen articles and everything for the new couple to move in and settle down. And our protagonist's girlfriend, whenever she goes to see some kitchen fender or meat screen or whatever, something like that, something of for their house. So whenever Dora goes in to buy something for the kitchen, say kitchen fender or meat screen, she sees a Chinese house for Jip. Jip is Dora's dog, I think, pet dog. So whenever Dora sees goes on to buy this, she saw a Chinese house for Jip with little bells on top, and she started preferring that to buy that. And it takes a long time to accustom Jip to his new residences. And I mean, whenever they go to what they mean here, that whenever they go on to buy furnitures or say kitchen utensils or things like that for their new home, Dora also starts trying for new residences for Jip, say with houses with little bells, this house, that house, which takes a long time for them to make choices after we have bought it. Uh, Whenever he goes in or out, he makes all the little bells ring and is horribly frightened. So, whenever he goes in to try his new residences, the little bells above those starts jingling and he becomes scared. Peggotty comes up to make herself useful and falls to work immediately. Her department appears to be to clean everything over and over again. I think she's their maid, Peggotty. Or I shouldn't jump into conclusions, let's find out. She rubs everything that can be rubbed until it shines like her own honest forehead with perpetual friction. And now it is that I begin to see her solitary brother passing through the dark streets at night and looking as he goes among the wandering faces. I never speak to him at such an hour. I know too well, as his grey figure passes onward, what he seeks and what he dreads. So we don't know about Peggotty's brother here. Uh, what we know is our protagonist doesn't talk to him during the night time that he passes him through. Okay, so probably the brother is seeking for his friend or ex-wife or his girlfriend, somebody like that. It could be, I'm just predicting, who is lost in the streets maybe somewhere, and he's wandering among the crowds in the dark streets looking for her. It could be. Okay, so then why does, get back to the story. Why does Traddles look so important when he calls upon me this afternoon in the Commons, where I still occasionally attend? For form's sake, when I have time, the realization of my boyish daydreams is at hand. I'm going to take out the license. It is a little document to do much, and Traddles contemplates it as it lies upon my desk, half in admiration, half in awe. There are the names in the sweet old visionary connexion. Ah, David Copperfield and Dora Spenlow. Here we get the names. And here our viewers know for sure what I'm reading. And there in the corner is the parental institution, the stamp office, which is so benignantly interested in the various transactions of human life, looking down upon our union. And there is the Archbishop of Canterbury, invoking a blessing on us. Okay, so and there is the Archbishop of Canterbury invoking a blessing on us in print and doing it as cheap as could possibly be expected. Nevertheless, I'm in a dream, a flustered, happy, hurried dream. I can't believe that it is going to be, and yet I can't believe, but that everyone I pass in the street must have some kind of perception that I'm going to be married the day after tomorrow. So, our protagonist, which now we know who he is really happy and flustered, and he seems to be in a dream-like manner. I mean, he's so happy because he's getting married to his girlfriend, probably a long time girlfriend, and he has also got a good job from which he's earning, and we got the idea of how much he's earning. So he's quite established now. He has bought a small house, and he is like really happy. And whenever he's passing in the streets, it like happens to, I think, everyone, that whenever they are happy, it seems like the whole world seems to be glowing and reflecting their inner happiness. So that's what is happening with our protagonist. He seems like, it seems to him like that whenever he's walking down the street, everyone who is passing him by seems to know that he is going to be married the day after tomorrow. So let's come back to the story. The surrogate knows me when I go down to be sown, and disposes of me easily, as if there were a Masonic understanding between us. Traddles is not at all wanted, but is in attendance as my general backer. I hope the next time you come here, my dear fellow, I say to Traddles, it will be on the same errand for yourself, and I hope it will be soon. So, our protagonist is telling Traddles, his very good dear friend, that whenever you also come for next time you also come here, it should be for your marriage, not for mine. I think they went to see the venue or find the church where they will get married. So he's wishing the same for Traddles, his dear friend. Okay, so let's read on. Thank you for your good wishes, my dear Copperfield, he replies. I hope so too. It's a satisfaction to know that she'll wait for me any length of time, and that she really is the dearest girl. When are you to meet her at the coach? I ask. At 7, says Traddles, looking at his plain old silver watch, the very watch he once took a wheel out of. At school, to make a water meal. That is about Miss Wickfield's time, is it not? A little earlier. Her time is 8:30. I assure you, my dear boy, says Traddles, I am almost as pleased as if I were going to be married myself. To think that this event is coming to such a happy termination, and really the great friendship and consideration of personally associating Sophie with the joyful occasion and inviting her to be a bridesmaid in conjunction with Miss Wickfield demands my warmest thanks. I am extremely sensible of it. So I think Traddles's girlfriend is Sophie, and he is bringing her in to be bridesmaid of his friend's wife. So this is a good this is a very good decision. I hear him and shake hands with him, and we talk and walk and dine and so on. But I don't believe it. Nothing is real. So everything to our protagonist now seems to be in a dream, a very good dream. And he's really happy. And yeah, everything seems to be like a fairy tale. Okay, let's get back to the story. Sophie arrives at the house of Dora's aunts, Mrs. Lavina, or Miss Lavina and Miss Clarissa, in due course. She has the most agreeable of faces, not absolutely beautiful, but extraordinarily pleasant, and is of the most genial, unaffected, frank, engaging creatures I've ever seen. Traddles presents her to us with great pride and rubs his hand for 10 minutes by the clock, with every individual hair upon his head standing on tiptoe when I congratulate him in the corner of his choice. I have brought Agnes from Canterbury coach, and her cheerful and beautiful face is among us for the second time. Agnes has a great liking for Traddles, and it is capital to see them meet and to observe the glory of Traddles as he commends the dearest girl in the world to her acquaintance. Still, I don't believe it. We have a delightful evening and are supremely happy. But I don't believe it yet. I can't collect myself. I can't check off my happiness as it takes place. I feel in a misty and unsettled kind of state, as if I had just got up very early in the morning a week or two ago and had never been to bed since. So he's like walking in a waking dream, like in a fairy tale. Okay, let's get back. Let's read on. I can't make out when yesterday was. I seem to have been carrying the license about in my pocket many months. Next day, too, when I think license is some kind of license related to marriage, I think marriage license or something maybe. That they, in old England, they had to, or in the place, I won't say which place, it could be any place, in Asia also, where they had to bring it out as a procedure for marriage. I seem to have been carrying the license about in my pocket many months. Next day, too, when we all go in a flock to see the house, our house, Dora's and mine, I am quite unable to regard myself as its master. I seem to be there by permission of somebody else. I half expect the real master to come home presently and say he is glad to see me. Such a beautiful little house as it is, with everything so bright and new, with the flowers on the carpet looking as if freshly gathered, and the green leaves on the paper as if they had just come out, with spotless muslin curtains and the blushing rose colored furniture and Dora's garden hat with the blue ribbon. Do I remember now how I loved her in such another hat when I first knew her, already hanging on its little peg, the guitar case quite at home on its heels in the corner, and everybody tumbling over Chip's pagoda, which is much too big for the establishment. So here we see the protagonist has arrived with his fiancée to their house, which is going to be their house once they get married, and he is describing the house. He can't quite believe that he's going to be the master of this house, and he's just thinking that somebody else might suddenly come in, jump in, and say, "Oh, you have come to our house. You're welcome," or you said like that. And he's really in awe with the spotless and clean, bright, shiny features of the little and very beautiful house. And it seems that everything that they used to have, I think they have already moved in some of the important things there, and everything seems to be in their place as if they were meant to be there. Even Jeep's pagoda. Jeep means Dora's pet. His pagoda, like his little house, I think they bought, and it was looking really beautiful down right there. Although it was a little bit bigger for the establishment, but it was also very adorable, and everything seemed very much in place there. Okay, so let's read on. Okay, if my narration is going a bit boring, is if becoming a bit boring, do let me know in the comments or by disliking the post. And if it's not so, if I'm really able to give some entertainment to anyone, or if I'm able to do some anything, then please give a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to my channel. Yeah, and give a comment about how I can improve it to fit my viewers' tastes. Okay, so let's read on. Another happy evening, quite as unreal as all the rest of it, and I steal into the usual room before going away. Dora is not there. I suppose they have not done trying on yet. So he went to Dora's house, I guess, and he could not find Dora in his room. Um, Probably she has gone somewhere trying some dresses or anything. Let's read on. I suppose they have not done trying on yet. Miss Lavinia peeps in and tells me mysteriously that she will not be long. She is rather long, notwithstanding. But by and by I hear a rustling at the door and someone taps. I say, "Come in," but someone taps again. I go to the door, wondering who it is. There I meet a pair of bright eyes and a blushing face. They are Dora's eyes and face, and Miss Lavinia has dressed her in tomorrow's dress, bonnet and all, for me to see. I take my little wife to my heart, and Miss Lavinia gives a little scream because I tumble the bonnet, and Dora laughs and cries at once because I'm so pleased. I believe it less than ever. "Do you think it pretty, Dodie?" says Dora. "Pretty? I think rather I should rather think I did." "And are you sure you like me very much?" says Dora. The topic is fraught with such danger to the bonnet that Miss Lavinia gives another little scream and begs me to understand that Dora is only to be looked at and on no one and should not be on no account be touched. So Dora stands in a delightful state of confusion for a minute or two to be admired, and then takes off her bonnet, looking so natural without it, and runs away with it in her hand, and comes dancing down again in her own familiar dress and asks Chip if I have got a beautiful little wife and whether he'll forgive her for being married, and kneels down to make him stand upon the cookery book cookery book for the last time in her single life. So Dora is a really charming lady, and so our protagonist has come to Dora's house and could not find her when he stole into her room in the usual manner. And what he did was he suddenly heard a knock. And what he did was he suddenly heard a knock at the door, and he said, "Who is it?" And he heard another knock. So he opened the door and found Miss Lavinia, Dora's aunt, standing with Dora, and dressed. And Dora is dressed in tomorrow's, I think they were going to be married the next day, wedding gown. And she was looking all pretty and charming and beautiful, and our protagonist really couldn't hold his excitement back, and he, I think, hugged her and tumbled her bonnet, which made Miss Lavinia, the aunt, scream in fear because she has just, very carefully and delicately dressed her. And also, the wedding was tomorrow, so she had to keep everything intact. And then Dora again asked that if she was looking pretty enough, and that if the husband, going to be husband, fiancé, liked her very much. To which, again, our protagonist couldn't contain his. I'm sorry, I'm just getting jumbled up. Uh, I think I'm too excited. I'm also excited. It's infectious, these things. Okay, so our protagonist also became very excited, and he too became, I think, tried to hug her or something like that. And then again, Aunt Lavinia, which resulted in another scream from Aunt Lavinia because she had to keep everything intact until the marriage. So, yeah, and Dora was really happy because she understood and I think she also became very happy and understood the happiness in everybody's hearts. So she ran upstairs and uh, changed her dress and came down in her usual looking dress, looking also very pretty, and made Chip do some tricks that she used to make him do, which is also the last time she made him do it in a single life, because the next day she was going to be married. Okay, so let's read on. I go home, more incredulous than ever, to a lodging that I have hard by, and get up very early in the morning to ride to the Highgate Road and fetch my aunt. I have never seen my aunt in such state. She is dressed in lavender colored silk and has a white bonnet on, and is amazing. Janet has dressed her and is there to look at me. Peggotty is ready to go to church, intending to behold the ceremony from the gallery. Mr. Dick, who is to give my darling to me at the altar, has had his hair curled. Traddles, whom I have taken up by appointment at the turnpike, presents a dazzling combination of cream color and light blue, and both he and Mr. Dick have a general effect about them of being all gloves. So here we get a description of who has worn what at the D day or wedding day. So our protagonist has finally woken up to his very special day, and here's everyone, the guests, the important guests, who are going to walk the bride to the altar, or who is going to sit at the gallery, important people, and who is to do this and that, dressed and ready for the occasion. No doubt, let's read on. No doubt I see this, because I know it is so. But I am astray, and seem to see nothing. Nor do I believe anything whatever. No doubt I say this, because I know it is so. But I am astray, and seem to see nothing. Nor do I believe anything whatever. Still, as we drive along in an open carriage, this fairy marriage is real enough to fill me with a sort of wondering pity for the unfortunate people who have no part in it, but are sweeping out the shops and going to their daily occupations. My aunt sits with my hand in hers all the way. When we stop a little way short of the church to put down Peggotty, whom we have brought on the box, she gives it a squeeze and gives me a kiss. God bless you, Trot. So Peggotty is someone who has brought our protagonist up from when he was a baby. So she should be really very proud. Okay, let's read on. My own boy never could be dearer. I think of poor dear baby this morning. So do I. All of I owe to you, dear aunt. Tut, child, says my aunt, and gives her hand in overflowing cordiality to Traddles, who then gives this to Mr. Dick, who then gives his to me, who then gives mine to Traddles, and then we come to the church door. So they are all holding hands, like collecting their energies, communing, and to do something really important, and they have all landed in the church door for the marriage. The church is calm enough, I'm sure, but it might be a steam power loom in full action for any sedative effect it has on me. I am too far gone for that. The rest is all a more or less incoherent dream. A dream of their coming in with Dora, of a pew opener arranging us like a drill sergeant before the altar rails, of my wondering even then why pew openers must always be the most disagreeable female procurable, and whether there is any religious dread of a disastrous infection of good humor which renders it indispensable to set those vessels of vinegar upon the road to heaven, of the clergyman and clerk appearing, of a few boatmen and some other people strolling in, of an ancient mariner behind me strongly flavoring the church with rum, of the service beginning in a deep voice and are all being very attentive, of Miss Lavinia, who acts as a semi auxiliary bridesmaid, being the first to cry, and of her doing homage, as I take it, to the memory of Pidger in sobs, of Miss Clarissa applying a smelling bottle, of Agnes taking care of Dora, of my aunt endearing to represent herself as a model of sternness, with tears rolling down her face, of little Dora trembling very much and making her responses in faint whispers, of our kneeling down together, side by side, of Dora's trembling less and less, but always clasping Agnes by the hand, of the service being got through quietly and gravely, of our all looking at each other in an April state of smiles and tears when it is over, of my young wife being hysterical in the vestry and crying for her poor papa, her dear papa, of her soon cheering up again, and our signing the register all around, of my going into the gallery for Peggotty to bring her to sign it, of Peggotty's hugging me in a corner, and I think Peggotty became the witness, of Peggotty's hugging me in a corner and telling me she saw my own dear mother married, of its being over and our going away. So here we have finished the wedding rituals, and that is also very solemnly, gravely, and happily in a dreamlike manner for our protagonist. So the bridesmaid who did what is quite well given here, and they were all happy. Now, time to walk out of the church, and the fiancé, the bride to be and the groom to be now has become husband and wife. So, yeah, let's read on. Of my walking so proudly and lovingly down the aisle with my sweet wife upon my arm, through a mist of half seen people, pulpits, monuments, pews, funds, organs, and church windows, in which there flutter faint airs of association with my childish church at home so long. So now he is comparing this day to his childhood when he used to go to churches, and I don't think that he's a very church going person. So he used to go to churches because in some families, Christian families, they have to, in every Thursday or Saturdays, I think they have to go to churches to hear the prayers. So I think he used to do that in childhood, and next he is doing it now while getting married, and he can associate that with his childhood church at his hometown or at his home place. All the pews, funds, organs, monuments, pulpits that can be seen in the church. Let's read on. Of their whispering as we pass, what a youthful couple we are, and what a pretty little wife she is. Of our all being so merry and talkative in the carriage going back, of Sophie telling us that when she saw Traddles, whom I had entrusted with the license, asked for it, she almost fainted, having been convinced that he would contrive to lose it, or to have his pocket picked, of Agnes laughing gaily, and of Dora being so fond of Agnes that she will not be separated from her, but still gives her hand, of there being a breakfast with abundance of things pretty and substantial to eat and drink, whereof I partake, as I should do in any other dream, without the least perception of their flavor, eating and drinking, as I may say, nothing but love and marriage, and no more believing in the viands than in anything else, of my making speech in the same dreamy fashion, without having an idea of what I want to say, beyond such as may be comprehended in the full conviction that I haven't said it, of our being very sociably and simply happy, always in a dream though, and of Chips having wedding cake and it's not agreeing with him afterwards, of the pair of hired post horses being ready, and of Dora's going away to change her dress, of my aunt and Miss Clarissa remaining with us, and our walking in the garden, and my aunt, who has made quite a speech at breakfast touching Dora's aunts, being mightily amused with herself, but a little proud of it too. So they have finished the marriage ceremony, walked out of the door of the church, and I think they landed in the area where eating, drinking, and the speeches happens. The uh, which sometimes happens in the garden next to the church, or in some other places that they might have rented. So that is what they're doing. They're giving their little speeches. Our protagonist is, who doesn't know what he's saying, has said something, and then Dora being very happy, our little bride, and the aunts giving the speeches, the other people, and they are having their bellies full with sumptuous meals, the wedding meals, and Jip also having the wedding cake that is upsetting his stomach later, but we don't mind of it. So then let's read on. Of Dora's being ready, and of Miss Lavinia's hovering about her, loth to lose the pretty toy that has given her so much pleasant occupation. So Dora is Miss Lavinia, Dora's aunt, is always about her that if she's not like uh, putting her dress right, or straightening up her bonnet, or doing something, curling her hair, or like our relatives do, like usually people do, relatives do to the bride or the dressed up brides. So that is what she is doing, lest her dear Dora you know becomes a bit imperfect. Let's read on then. Of Dora's making a long series of surprise discoveries that she has forgotten all sorts of little things, and of everybody's running everywhere to fetch them. Of their all closing about Dora when at last she begins to say goodbye, looking with their bright colors and ribbons like a bed of flowers. Of my darling being almost smothered among the flowers and coming out laughing and crying both together to my jealous arms, of my wanting to carry Jip, who is to go along with us, and Dora saying no, that she must carry him, or else he'll think that she don't like him anymore, now that she is married, and it will break his heart. Aww, here's a cute moment of our going arm in arm, and Dora stopping and looking back and saying, if I've ever been cross or ungrateful to anybody, don't remember it. And bursting into tears, of her waving her little hand and our going away once more, of her once more stopping and looking back, and hurrying to Agnes and giving Agnes, above all others, her last kisses and farewells. We drive away together, and I, awake from the dream, I believe it at last. It is my dear, dear little wife beside me, whom I love so well. Are you happy now, you foolish boy? Says Dora. And sure you don't repent, right? I have stood aside to see the phantoms of those days go by me. They are gone, and I resume the journey of my story. So here we see a chapter of memory of our protagonist, so beautifully put, where he gets married to his long love, Dora, and the whole affair is given here of the night before and the day of the wedding, and the wedding being finished. Now they are returning home, and so I'll keep to this for today. The video is quite long. Yeah, it is quite long. Do let me know if I should do longer videos and what I should read next. I think this has been a great chapter, which can be said to be a story by itself. And yeah, if there is anything, any reactions or anything that can be done, that can be improved, or that can be done in some other way, do let me know in the comments. And yeah, bye bye.